Figures on measles outbreaks.
State health officials have confirmed nearly 100 more measles cases in the Spartanburg, South Carolina area. The outbreak has now grown to more than 300 confirmed cases. It's one of the biggest measles outbreaks in the country, along with one along the Utah-Arizona border.
President Trump has taken steps to address the issue of affordability in the housing sector. Bill Pulte, who heads the Federal Housing Finance Agency, says that includes banning institutions from buying private homes and...
We are looking at everything and anything that can bring down the cost of homes. That includes portable mortgages. I will tell you, though, that the president has the list of things that he's looking at doing, and he'll decide whether or not we do that.
This is...
You still got it, but your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Sponsored by Pfizer.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-518-3899. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-518-3899. That's 800-518-3899. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Good afternoon. Trying to finish this rank in the Franklin area northbound on 65. It's going to be right here underneath Morris Lane. Again, it's got traffic a little bit slow down here in the Cool Springs area. It's a stalled vehicle westbound. Briley Parkway on the Cumberland River Bridge slowing down that traffic just a bit behind it there into the Two Rivers area. Hey, when you need dependable towing for your car or truck right here in Middle Tennessee, no matter what county you're in, call STR Towing and Recovery. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Folks, I hope you listen in every Sunday night at 8 o'clock to the Edwin Lee Raymer Show. We'll talk about some local politics, national politics, all types of topics, all types of guests. That's 8 o'clock Sunday night, Edwin Lee Raymer Show. Talk to you then.
Rutherford weather.
A flood watch remains in effect tonight. Rain likely with another half an inch of rainfall possible and a low of 55 degrees. More rain Saturday with a high of 62. From the WGNS Rutherford Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Ray Miller. Right now, it's 67.
We do it your way at Sir Pizza.
Order a royal feast or create your own pizza online now at sirpizzatn.com. Carry out and delivery for dinner tonight at sirpizzatn.com.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com.
This is the Blue Raider Podcast on WGNS, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. It's your all-access pass to everything Middle Tennessee sports. Game recaps, player spotlights, and the latest from the heart of Blue Raider Nation. Now, here's your host, Jake Bolden.
Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast. I am your host, Jake Bolden, and we're in a new place, a new setting for the Blue Raider Podcast. I'm super excited about this opportunity given to me here at WGNS, being a part of the All Sports Talk weekly lineup. Today's episode, we're in the heart of Conference USA play for men's and women's basketball. The Lady Raiders were victorious last night in the Murphy Center, and of course the men lost in overtime to the Miners in El Paso. We're going to be talking about those matchups, and of course looking ahead to the matchups against New Mexico State for both the Lady Raiders and the men, as the men are in Las Cruces. And then at the very end, we will give you some football transfer portal updates. It's been a minute since we've been on the episode in this fashion, so I've got so much to get into. But before we do that, I do want to thank our presenting sponsor of Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Right now, they have a month-to-month pricing. It's only available online, and it will come with no additional fees. The Gold membership is just $25 bi-weekly with a $40 enrollment. Or you can upgrade to the family plan for you and your significant other at $45 biweekly with only a $20 enrollment. That membership gives you access to all 16 Gold's Gym locations across Tennessee, along with group exercise classes and childcare, all included, again, with no hidden cost. So visit Gold's Gym of Tennessee online at goldsgym.com to learn more and find a location near you. And of course, if you're listening to us today on any of our social media outlets, we are live streamed on YouTube, X, and Facebook at Blue Raider Pod. Make sure you hit that follow button. Again, so much good information coming out, especially with the transfer portal and my friends over at Go Middle, Connor Smith, Shane Pickering, keeping us updated with all the movement that the Derek Mason and company have. And then we're also on Instagram and TikTok at Blue Raider Pod, and on YouTube, where we are also live streaming. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another one of our weekly uploads here. Again, we're live at WGNS. Super excited about that. And if you want to call into the show, a nice added feature, hit up our line here at 615-893-1450, and our producer will pick up the phone. Before we get into the meat of today's episode, I do want to take just a second to recognize the passing of First Lady Liz McPhee. MTSU Board of Trustees Chairman Stephen Smith wrote a statement extending sympathy to McPhee's family, saying her devotion to MTSU over the last quarter century, combined with her career as an educator and her tremendous impact as a volunteer for numerous charitable causes, enhanced the lives of thousands in our city, state, and beyond. McPhee devoted her life to education, teaching third grade for 40 years before retiring in 2018. She is survived by her husband of 45 years, MTSU President Dr. Sidney A. McPhee, their son, Sidney Anthony McPhee, their daughter, Seneca Ann McPhee. And as of today, the funeral arrangements are to be announced at a later time, so keep your eyes peeled on the university's outlets for more information there. Obviously, my condolences to the McPhee family, of course, of MTSU. Liz and Dr. Sidney McPhee were members of my church at Bel Air Baptist, and certainly unexpected to say the least, but saddened to hear the news for what Liz gave not only to the university, but what she gave to the athletics program. We've heard a lot from Coach Insel last night at the conclusion of their game and the post-game press conference, what Liz, so many things that you can't even begin to name what she has done for the athletics program. So certainly saddened by that news and all the well wishes to the McPhee family moving forward. But let's get into today's episode. If this is your first time on WGNS listening to me, I would be remiss to not give you a little bit of rundown about what this show is all about. Again, we are the Blue Raider Podcast. We've been producing episodes since December of 2024, so we are slowly but surely building a following, so much so that we've been invited here at WGNS as a part of the All Sports Talk weekly lineup, covering everything Blue Raider athletics, men's basketball, women's basketball right now in the heat of it, but I love some tennis action as they get started next week. We had a release of the softball schedule, so a lot of that's going to be coming up too down the chute, but obviously we're in the heat of basketball. We'll be talking everything we can about basketball today, and then a little bit of football transfer portal updates for you. I've been working here in local media, Murfreesboro born and raised, but I've been working with Main Street Media for years, since high school, over 10 years now to this point. It's kind of hard to believe, but covering local prep coverage, and of course I've been covering the Blue Raiders from a writing perspective since college, and so I decided to take a step out of the writing medium and get to the airwaves and capitalize on the craze that is podcasting. And so I found myself here covering everything about MTSU, and I certainly love what I do. Very passionate about the Blue Raiders as a fan, first and foremost, but secondly being a news outlet for a program that doesn't get necessarily as much coverage as I would like, so I took matters into my own hand, and of course I've grown this in 2 years, and I'm excited to be talking to those that the new people that I'm finding with WGNS, and of course in the foreseeable future. But other added benefits to this show outside of the radio airwaves, we also do live post-game press conferences on the weekend, so look forward. If you're not already following me on my social medias at Blue Raider Pod and on YouTube, make sure you do that so you don't miss any of those live post-game press conferences that I offer there. Now let's get into the basketball action. Lady Raiders won at home last night against UTEP in a very convincing 86-43 fashion. Kirsten Verholz has a career game, 17 points, scoring a majority of those in the first quarter, having flashes of Jalen Gregory. I joked with her in the postgame that the number 10 was last worn by Jalen Gregory, so she's living up to that expectation. 5 made threes. Both the 17 points and 5 made threes are a career high for her as a freshman. We're going to see a lot of career highs with this group, but very impressed with the confidence. I've been using that term a lot with her, but it goes without saying the quick trigger that she has. And I know when you talk about freshmen, they might be a little timid to pull that trigger, but Kirsten last night showed flashes again of a very young Jalen Gregory. Excited about who she has become. And the other thing, too, Coach Insels talks about Verholsten and her growth as a point guard position, trying to limit the turnovers, had 2 bad turnovers there late, but she has limited the turnovers since conference play has started, and that's exactly what he needs from that position. And it's not necessarily what other players aren't doing, it's what Verholst is doing to maintain that position, that starting spot at point guard. So it's until she gives them a reason to pull her off the floor, she's going to stay out there. Other players to note, Blair Bogus, her 3rd straight double-double. First player to do that since 2014, a player by the name of Cheyenne Parker. And my understanding is things turned out pretty well for Miss Cheyenne Parker, having a multi-year career in the WNBA. So she's obviously, Blair has found herself into some high accolades company. But the big thing is no one has ever done it 4 consecutive times in MTSU history, which I thought was insane, given the amount of double-doubles that we talk about. Cheyenne Parker, Alex Johnson. The one that really stuns me is Ebony Rowe, the career record holder for double-doubles, but never has she gone 3 or 4 times 4 consecutive games with a double-double. And Blair is obviously going to be faced with that this Saturday. I like her odds. I don't want to put too much pressure on her, but obviously she's very capable, and New Mexico State is a game where I think that lines up for her to complete that feat. So other players, Savannah Davis, 9 points, 10 rebounds. She was just short of a double-double. She got subbed in there late in the 4th, gave her a 3-point attempt to get her that double-double, but she missed it, and they still took her out. So I think if you don't beat UTEP by 43, she probably gets herself a double-double, and she got a lot of those rebounds early on too. But other things about this team that I'm very impressed with, not only are they undefeated in Conference USA play, 3-0 with 1 more home game in this swing, but they've done it with 14 turnovers per game. They going into conference play, they average nearly 20 turnovers per game, but at this point, they only 14. And granted, you might look at the competition, but it speaks to how rapidly this team is growing in the early going. So those are signs that would lead you to believe that with tougher competition on the horizon, and I'm more specifically looking at next week's matchup with La Tech and Sam Houston, because La Tech was the preseason favorite in Conference USA, and then Sam Houston has really been the surprise team for all of Conference USA, going undefeated thus far themselves at 2-0, but more importantly, they beat the defending Conference USA champions on the road last night by a score of 59-53, a team that thrives in chaos. They turn teams over quite a bit, and that is a matchup that, again, when you're preparing for a young team against the most veteran 2 teams in this league, and you play them both in the same weekend, that is Sam Houston and La Tech, you certainly have to, you're really going to test this team and what they're able to do. On the defensive side, I think they're fine. It's a matter of can they score the ball well enough to keep pace with the likes of La Tech, Sam Houston in that same boat. And we go ahead and don't want to go too far ahead, but let's go ahead and preview this game tomorrow night at the Murphy Center. It's at 12 noon. That game was viewable on ESPN+. New Mexico State, going into this, is a net 280 team, one of the worst in Conference USA, 3-9 overall, but they're 2-1 in Conference USA, and more importantly, they're on a 2-game win streak, and that is a home win against Delaware, and they won last night up in Bowling Green, who is the other worst team in Conference USA. But they're Conference USA opener last week, they lost to Liberty by 5 at home. Again, that's something that you have to keep an eye on. A team that entered conference play with only 1 win is now 2-1, and their 1 loss is by 5. So I don't want to overlook New Mexico State. This is going to be a really good team. Lucia Yanez averaging 14.5 points per game, 6 rebounds. She's a 6-foot senior forward. That's going to be the big test matchup there between Blair and Lucia. She's 5th in Conference USA in scoring. And then Amani Warren averaging 13 points and 4 rebounds. She's a 5'10 junior guard who has the 10th most points scored in Conference USA thus far. So those two are their biggest scoring threat. Outside of that, this team does struggle to score. They're one of the worst scoring offenses in all of Conference USA, averaging just over 58 points per game. But again, talk about this team trending at the right time. They have scored an average of 65 points per game in their 3 CUSA games thus far. So obviously, you could point the finger that maybe the non-conference slate isn't a true testament to who New Mexico State is, which is ironic because when you look at MTSU, they're in that same boat. You look at our non-conference and look at our record, you might be a little bit dissuaded by how good this team is. But in these first 3 games, you look at MTSU and say this is arguably the best team in this conference thus far, and they've really proven that. So I want to take everyone's non-conference with a grain of salt, but I would argue that MTSU had by far the hardest non-conference slate of anybody in this conference, and that includes New Mexico State. But back to them. Outside of their scoring threats, they have Moraine Dusu, who is a 9 rebounds per game. She's 6th in Conference USA in rebounding, a 5'10" forward. This team is undersized, but so is MTSU for that matter. But they will have the length down low. Blair just over 6 foot, Macy just over 6 foot, and obviously we've had Stacy Kabernick, who's gotten quality minutes as of late. So I think you still have the length advantage there. But I think you're going to have no problem with this team at all if you limit them to one and done possessions. Again, they don't score the ball particularly well. If you do get into a free throw shooting competition, they are the worst team in Conference USA in free throw shooting at 60%. But more importantly, they're the 6th worst team in all of college basketball. This team does not shoot the free throw particularly well. But if there is an area where this team is good, it is they're turning teams over. They're 3rd in Conference USA in steals at 10 a game. So when you're looking at this game on paper, what does MTSU need to do well? Continue to play good defense, but because I don't think they necessarily have to get into a shootout with New Mexico State. Rebound the ball well like you have all year, and then don't turn the ball over. I know that's easier said than done. I highlighted at the beginning of this segment that going into conference play, they had averaged nearly 20 turnovers per game, but thus far they have limited the amount of turnovers. They've gone down since that Kennesaw State game. They've won the turnover battle in 2 of their 3 conference games so far. So keep trending in that right direction, and things will be good for you on Saturday. But I now want to look forward to next week. Again, that swing with La Tech and Sam Houston. You're gonna see me again on Friday, next week's episode, so we'll be able to talk a little bit more about Sam Houston. But Louisiana Tech is one that I know Insel and staff and players alike have circled since the schedule came out. There's a lot of bad blood between these two teams, but La Tech earned Conference USA favorite because of their backcourt strength. Obviously, returning freshman of the year, Paris Bradley, Gianna Morris, Alexia Weaver, and then in the front court, they've got Jordan Marshall, a team that returns 4 starters. They got back a healthy Worm down low and Airy down low at the 5 position. So this team full of veterans, full of players that have performed already, earning obviously themselves all CUSA honors. So this is a matchup that is very important, not only just to maintain your undefeated streak in Conference USA, but I think more importantly, you want to stake claim to winning the road game at the preseason favorite. If you had the question of is this team the best team in Conference USA, you've got to win this one on Thursday, and then more than likely you're going to have an opportunity to face another undefeated team to officially be the only undefeated team left in Conference USA, sans Missouri State. We'll get to them later down the road. But a big swing, obviously, take care of business on Saturday, and the Lady Raiders have destiny with first place on the road next week at La Tech in Huntsville, Texas. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the men's basketball team, their overtime loss at El Paso last night, and, of course, looking ahead to New Mexico State and then their home swing the week after. And then right now you are listening to the Blue Raider Podcast on WGNS.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
Every team knows which play can be a winning move. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Womack, here to help life go right by combining your home and auto insurance. Call me today at 615-890-0850. It's a winning move that saves you time and money. Your ride, your stuff. You live with them together. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Womack. It's smart to protect them together to help life go right. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let me help you save by combining your auto and renters.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Auctions are easy, fast, and profitable.
I've always been a big fan of auctions. Get instant sale, no contingencies.
That means the sale of your property won't depend on an inspection, financing, or appraisals.
I've known the guys over there my entire life.
Call Parks Auction and Realty or visit parksauction.com.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Parks Auction Company, committed to auction excellence.
Sold it to you, 27.5.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out. Join the fun and develop lifelong skills. Visit FirstShotTN.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's FirstShotTN.org.
Good afternoon. T-Dot finally moved a stalled vehicle on the Cumberland River Bridge going westbound there on Briley Parkway. At one point, it was a little bit slow over in the Two Rivers area. Starting to build now. All the major outbound routes. Watch for radar I-40 out through the Mount Juliet area. Some earlier, 24 out in parts of Murfreesboro, Rutherford County. When you need dependable towing for your car or big truck, call the professionals here in Middle Tennessee. STR Towing and Recovery, strtow.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
This is the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, 100.5 Smyrna, WGNSradio.com, and the Blue Raider Podcast YouTube channel. Now, back to your host, Jake Bolden.
This is a paid legal ad.
When a family...
Welcome back into the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. We are talking hoops basketball. We just previewed the Lady Raiders matchup at home tomorrow at 12 noon against New Mexico State. We're going to turn our attention over to the men who dropped their first Conference USA contest of the year. If you want to call in, voice your opinions. I know that this is a segment that a lot of people look forward to talking about. The line here is 615-893-1450, and our producer here will take your call. Men's basketball in El Paso, always a toughest swing. El Paso Don Haskins Center, one of a historic arena, obviously for those that are college basketball fanatics, but more so in Conference USA, always a tough place to play. And just like it was last year, the Raiders went into overtime against the Miners. It took extra time for the Miners to pull away this time. Unfortunately, the Raiders weren't as good and late as they were last year, but put it plain and simple, I guess I should highlight the score. 83-80 was the final score for those that didn't catch that late-night West Coast swing on the CBS Sports Network. Put it simply, it's a bad loss. I don't have a better way to really word that, and I wish I had a little bit more to add to it, and you'll certainly hear me ramble here a little bit, but it's a bad loss for one reason. It's the second worst team in Conference USA, according to KenPom. They're ranked 259th. And they're only worse than the only one team worse is Delaware. who's injury plagued, which is obviously UTEP's excuse early on. They're injury plagued, but the biggest concern here is that is UTEP's only second win against a Division I opponent. They struggled against a D2 opponent earlier this year, so they barely have wins over Division II opponents. And you can take the excuse of it being on the road all you want. It's not a respectable win. And when this comes back at the end of the year and you're fighting for that last game or two to become regular season champions, or you're jockeying for one of those buys, those coveted buys for the Conference USA tournament, we're going to look back at this El Paso game and say, man, that's probably a game you shouldn't have lost. And there's a lot to look at as to why. Defensively, you weren't very good. You gave up 83 points to a pretty average offensive team, a team that really offensively has struggled because a lot of their scoring threats are injured, but it's the most points that UTEP has scored against a Division I all season long. And, of course, I'll give you tongue-in-cheek here, 83 points in overtime. But it's the second highest three-point field goal percentage in a Division I game this year. Their second lowest turnovers in a Division I game this year. But the biggest glaring weakness for MTSU's sake is it is once again blowing a second-half double-digit lead. As veteran as this team is, they are old as far as minutes played. Looking at guys like Sean Smith and even Tori Alston, who's again only a redshirt sophomore, but has a lot of minutes under his belt. Chris Aloof, one of those guys too. Kamari Lands, blowing double-digit second-half leads. It's mind-boggling. It hurts, to be quite honest with you. And it's the fifth one this year in specific. Evansville, you were up by 20 in the second half. They came back and you narrowly escaped there. McNeese State, their MTE, they were up 10 points in that second half and ended up losing there. Then Kennesaw, you had a 10-point, very briefly, but you had a double-digit lead there against Kennesaw, and they came back and you won that game by 1. And then, of course, Sam Houston, which was a first-half lead. They led by over 20 in the first half, but they came all the way back, and we know how that game ended as well. Before we get more into this UTEP game, I've got a caller on the line. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Jake, this is Sean in Murfreesboro. Love seeing you on WGNS. Wanted to ask you just kind of generally what you see as the ceiling for this MTSU men's team. I know if you look at the net and you look at different pieces of information, you think they could possibly, if they come out of Huntsville, maybe be as high as a 13 seed. Seems like somewhere between 13, 14, 15 is kind of the best case scenario. Do you think this team can actually win CUSA is my first question. And I guess who do you see, again, recent events aside, tough loss on the road in conference play, and conference play always being just a different animal at this time of the year, especially coming out of the holidays. Who are the biggest threats to MTSU actually taking home the hardware in Huntsville? Liberty seems obvious, but there's other teams as well that seem to play well in moments that you think could give them some trouble. Listen off air. Love having the show.
Thanks, Sean. Obviously a big supporter. I appreciate your call, being the first caller on WGNS. So there's that honor for you. Great question. To go back to your last question, can they win Conference USA? I think they can. This team can. What's their biggest threat? The glaring one's Liberty. The thing about Liberty is they are a true veteran team, obviously returning 4 of their starting 5 last year. They're winning on the road, something that MTSU hasn't done. I know it's only 1. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and be doom and gloom and jumping off that ledge. But is it too cliche to say that themselves, that's their biggest obstacle? I mean, we saw that last night in El Paso. I don't think with all this displayed here, UTEP is played their best game they've had all season long, and it took them 5 extra minutes and a guy that hasn't hit very many threes to hit 5 of them for a team that doesn't hit threes, or one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in Conference USA. So it took UTEP the best game they've played all season long and 5 extra minutes to beat you. You're gonna look back and say this is a bad loss, but I still put this on MTSU. There were a few defensive adjustments that I didn't necessarily like at the end. A lot of their forwards were able to get downhill. We fouled them down low. Tori Alston was non-existent because of the foul trouble. Chris Loof had to play a different brand of defense for his own liking. So I guess the glaring one outside of Liberty is themselves. They just got to be. They have to play within themselves. The ceiling for this team, and that's to your first question. The ceiling for this team is what we saw against La Tech. Now you can't hit 22 threes on a nightly basis and expect to run through Conference USA. I think we all agree that that was a complete anomaly. But when this team plays their brand of basketball, which is an up-tempo, one-and-done, getting a rebound, they play good half-court offense, unselfish half-court offense. When they need a bucket, Sean Smith is a guy that's handling that ball, whether he's scoring or he's finding someone else. He's calm, cool, composed, which is the composure that this entire team seems to carry. So something like that, a guy like that who's heading up your offense, but a team like that has that mentality, obviously has a ceiling to win Conference USA. The conference as a whole is not particularly good. I look at Liberty as a clear number one. I think in that second tier echelon is going to end up being MTSU, a team that they play tomorrow. New Mexico State is probably in that upper tier as well. Missouri State has looked impressive, but I think a lot of that has to do with the opponents that they've played. Western looks good at time, depending on what Western Kentucky team you get, the one that took Tulsa down to the wire, the team that lost by nearly 20 against New Mexico State. I think Sam Houston, all things considered, is a very scary team because they're so young, and when they figure it out, they're going to be very, very dangerous. I still think that this league has a ton of parity in it, but to your comment about the NCAA tournament, I don't know that anyone here is going to be making any noise in Conference USA as far as seeding goes. I think Liberty makes it. They might jump up to a 13 or a 12 seed, but I think any of us, the rest of us, would be lucky around a 14, 15 seed. Maybe not that bad. That might be a stretch, but 14 seed I would think is comfortable. But to preview this game on Saturday in Las Cruces, again, it's another nationally televised game at 7 p.m. on ESPNU. New Mexico State coming into this is a Ken Palm rated 138, 9-5 overall, but they are 1-2 in Conference USA, picking up their first win last night against the Hilltoppers. Big part of it was going up 21-2 in the first 6 minutes of the game. They shot 7 of 9 out the gate. Jamel Jones led the Aggies with 24 points. That team is dangerous, but when you look at the final score, again, a 19-point lead in the first 6 minutes, and they only won by 16. So past the first 6 minutes, the final 34 minutes, the Hilltoppers kept it a 1-point game. So I don't know that New Mexico State is as dangerous as I initially thought going into this year. They have by far the best transfer class. As I spoke on, the 6'4" senior guard Jamel Jones transferred in from Bakersfield. He's one of the top transfers in all of Conference USA, making the most noise. Averaged almost 20 points a game last year, 2 years removed from his National Junior College Player of the Year. Elijah Jones, 6'1" graduate guard. He's a Southern Illinois transfer who started 4 games for the Salukis before going down with an injury. He's someone that has been a bright spot for them. And then Julius Mims, another one of their top scorers, a 6'9" guard. A 6'9" graduate forward from Idaho. That's why we talked about Coach Jason Hooten in this transfer class, why New Mexico State was the second-ranked team in the preseason poll was because of this recruiting class, the third-ranked team in the preseason poll was because of the strength of this recruiting class, and Jamel Jones has lived up to his hype. But it's a deep team. They've got a lot of weapons, 10 rotational pieces, but defensively, that's where their bread and butter is. They're top 100 in defensive effective field goal percentage, so you got to be able to score the ball. I mean, MTSU at times last night could score the ball at will, but they did go in some dry spells that got them into some trouble, talking about that double-digit blown second-half lead there. But the other thing is positional length. MTSU has a positional length over New Mexico State. If they can, the other thing too that I have noted here as a key to the game is that teams that can work the ball into the post will do particularly well against them. In games where opponents score at least 45% of their points inside the arc, the Aggies are 2-5, and all 5 of their losses come in those games that happen in particular. So work the ball into the post. That's going to be the key to this game. Obviously, if you can hit threes, it's going to space that floor out a lot more. But New Mexico State wins their games on the defensive end. So that's going to do it for us. I look forward to next week. Obviously, we'll be talking more hoops. I do have some updates for football, more commitments coming through, so make sure you're following us on Blue Raider Pod so you don't miss those. Our guys over at Go Middle, that's Connor Smith and Shane Picker, and they have all that stuff, and there are more recruits that have committed that we haven't already tweeted out, so you need to be paying attention to those. We're kicking it over to Brian Baird, who's covering the Oakland at Riverdale game. Thanks to you for tuning in to today's episode. Make sure you're following us at Blue Raider Pod on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And if you're tuned into our live stream on YouTube, subscribe so you don't miss another one of our weekly episodes. Thanks to our producer, Jackson Smith. You are listening to the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold Gym of Tennessee on WGNS. Until next time, go Blue.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the Law Offices of John Day. My team and I have worked hard to help injured people throughout Middle Tennessee. We've helped thousands of people get the legal help they need when they've needed it the most. And if we're not able to help or aren't the right lawyer for you, we'll do the best to point you in the right direction. If you've been injured, call the law offices of John Day for a free consultation. And remember, there's no fee unless we win your case.
If you want to get some barbecue, I'll tell you how to do it. Head for the Slick Pig and you're into it. Just walk through the door at 1920 East Main and your nose will send a message right to your brain. Say, smells good, and barbecue. Slick Pig. They got ribs and beans. Got spicy wings. Slick Pig.
A Murfreesboro tradition. 1920 East Main.
WGNS.
This is Peter Demas, and here is this week's Demas's Emergency Responder of the Week.
Murfreesboro police officer and SRO Cole Glass was on a bike patrol when he noticed a child struggling with a broken bike chain. The boy, visibly frustrated, told Glass the chain came off. Without hesitation, Glass knelt and fixed it, and the moment became a small but powerful reminder of the heart behind the badge. Murfreesboro police officer Cole Glass's response exemplifies the kind of everyday heroism that often goes unnoticed, a willingness to pause, engage, and uplift a neighbor in need.
When you see a firefighter, police officer, paramedic, or telecommunicator going the extra mile, let WGNS know, and we at Demas's Restaurant will salute them as the Emergency Responder of the Week.
Next on All Sports Talk, it's the Blue Raider Insider Report with Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Coming to you today from Las Cruces, New Mexico, where the Blue Raiders have traveled. They will be practicing here in just a few moments, getting ready for their game tomorrow night against New Mexico State. Of course, the lead story around anything MTSU revolves around the passing of First Lady Liz McPhee yesterday. We were all stunned and shocked at her passing, and certainly send our deepest thoughts and condolences to Dr. McPhee's family and the entire MTSU community. Both the men's and women's basketball teams were informed before their games last night, and both coaches addressed it with their teams and on the radio broadcast and post-game press conferences yesterday. Of course, there will be more to come and more conversations as we all continue to relive great memories of such a wonderful lady. All right, recapping what happened last night. On the men's side, the Blue Raiders dropped an overtime nail-biter to the UTEP Miners, 83-80 at the Don Haskins Center. The Blue Raiders had an early 19-8 advantage, but UTEP responded, cutting it back to 44-37 at halftime. In the second half, Middle Tennessee's lead fluctuated between 2 and 10 points, but a Miner run late forced overtime for the second straight year in El Paso, and UTEP carried the momentum into the extra period and pulled off the 83-80 victory. It was a very, very physical game in El Paso, but the Blue Raiders now have to bounce back and get ready for New Mexico State tomorrow night. Elsewhere in Conference USA last night, Liberty won on the road at Louisiana Tech, 72-56. The Blue Raiders will be at Tech next Wednesday night. Delaware lost at Sam Houston 72-60. New Mexico State defeated Western Kentucky 80-64. And a full slate of activity is coming up on Saturday on the men's side. On the women's side, the Lady Raiders' first Conference USA game at home was a good one for the Blue Raider faithful, pulling together one of the most complete games of the season, an 86-43 win over UTEP. The Blue Raiders dominated on the glass, grabbing 54 rebounds to UTEP's 31, while also holding UTEP to 26% shooting as a team, the worst an opponent has shot this year against the Blue Raiders. Kirsten Verholst helped lead Middle Tennessee to an early 23-9 lead after opening the quarter by shooting 4 of 5 to score 11 early points. The Blue Raiders kept their foot on the gas and scored a season-high 44 points in the first half to lead the Miners 44-19 at the break, and the Blue Raiders just continued from that point on. The Lady Raiders will now take on New Mexico State at home on Saturday. That will be a noon tip-off at the Murphy Center. The pregame show will begin at 11:30 a.m. with the tip-off at noon. Last night on the women's side, it was Sam Houston winning at Liberty 59-53. Louisiana Tech won on the road at Delaware 65-50. Jacksonville State won at FIU 70-67. Missouri State won at home against Kennesaw State 67-61. And it was New Mexico State winning at Western Kentucky by a score of 70-67. And a final basketball note today, the athletic department wants to remind you of the upcoming Great Blue Raider Baby Race. That's Saturday, January 17th. There is a story on GoBlueRaiders.com with a link where you can register your crawling baby for the 2026 edition of the Great Blue Raider Baby Race. We'd like to have a full field on the floor at Murphy Center. All right, that's it for today, folks. We'll have another update for you coming up on Monday. But don't forget, Lady Raider basketball at noon, men's basketball at 7 o'clock Central Time tomorrow on the Blue Raider Network and here on the Big G, WGNS.
Whether it's a cough, a fever, or something you can't quite name, MMC